This project is supported by Plutonium Paint. Plutonium Paint dries faster, dries harder, and covers better. Check it out at plutoniumpaint.com. Yesterday I made this serving tray. It's a fun project, really satisfying project. And once I finish making the second one, I'm going to give them a cool paint job with the Plutonium Paint. I would say maybe the most difficult part of the project is cutting out the handle. To do that, I used a plunge router and a jig. So we'll get started by first making this jig, and I will have measurements and drawings for the jig and the serving tray, and you can find them on my website. The first step is to rip the parts of the jig to width, and 3/4 inch material is a little too thick for the jig, so then I'm going to resaw the material at 9/16. Next, I'll cut the top and bottom of the jig to length at 14 inches, and the two pieces for the middle of the jig at 5. With all the parts cut, I can build the jig by simply gluing and nailing it together, making sure that I'm flush at the ends. When I attach the top of the jig, I'll keep the nails in a little further so I avoid hitting the nail at the middle here, because that might make a nail pop out the side. Okay, well, now that I've got the jig made, I'm going to go ahead and cut the 1/2 inch plywood for the bottom of the tray. I'm using Baltic birch plywood because I've just got a few cutoffs here in the shop. You could use regular 1/2 inch birch plywood. I do suggest using birch plywood as opposed to other plywoods because it has a nice smooth surface, and that's good for painting. For the sides of the tray, I'm using 1x6 poplar, and I'll get started by first cutting the boards to length a little bit heavy. Next, I'll rip the boards to width, which is 2 1/4 inches. Now I'll raise the blade and resaw the material at 1/2 inch. I'm fitting the ends of the trays first, and once I have one fit, I can use this side to mark out the other side. I've got the sides of the tray cut to length, and I'm getting set up to cut the handles out using the plunge router. I'm using a piece of 1/2 inch MDF, it's sacrificial material, on my work table because I'll be cutting through the workpiece. I'll place the handle on the 1/2 inch MDF and then clamp the jig on top, and I'm ready to make the cut. To make the cut, I attached a 3/4 inch guide to the base of the router, and I'm using a 1/2 inch straight bit. I've clamped the jig in place with the edge of the jig aligned with the short point of the miter and the bottom of the jig flush with the bottom of the workpiece. Okay, well, I'm real happy with the way these turned out. My wife absolutely loves this one. She's, it's funny, I think she's more excited about this tray than a lot of the things that I've made in the last couple of months. And I've made some big things like the storage bed, TV lift cabinets. But anyway, she really likes this tray. So a couple of things I kind of skimmed over on the project. Number one, when I was nailing the sides to the 1/2-inch plywood, I used 1¼ nails, and basically about 1¼ from the edge, and then a nail just about every 5 or 6 inches. I changed to a 1-inch nail. I changed to a 1-inch nail when I was nailing at the corners. With a shorter nail, you're less likely to get a blowout. And as far as the graphics, I'm going to do a more in-depth video on the graphics on my art channel, and I'll have a link in the description. I just didn't want to take a ton of time. I did use painter's tape, which is kind of a low-tech way to make a stencil on a graphic like this. There's probably a better way, maybe with vinyl cutouts or something like that. I need to learn more about it. And this image here, the title of this is Bathers. It's from a photograph by the fashion photographer Horst P. Horst, if you want to check that out. Very iconic image. And like I said, I'm going to talk about all this stuff on my art channel. So also I wanted to mention my Instagram. If you don't follow me on Instagram, I did post pictures of this project throughout the week. And that's something that I do. I basically, just whatever I'm working on, I put up 2 or 3 posts, sometimes more, a week. So I hope you'll check out my Instagram. As always, guys, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.